Well, because what I notice as well is that being around other people who are committed to being open is good ground. It's good territory, and then but being with people who aren't, it's different. And so, but I happen to be in my life with someone who isn't interested in that, and so I'm frightened.
It might happen that if you're open, you don't feel like committing to openness.
Come again? If I'm open, I don't feel like committing to openness.
Yes. Only those who are close, they can commit to openness. No? If the standard routine of habits is to be closed, then you commit to be open. But if the standard routine is not to be closed, why should you commit to be open? It's your own trip. So make sure you're open and leave the rest alone. That's the best way to deal with it, because if you're open, it's very much likely that others will open if they're not open.
So, yeah, so it's actually the same question as right at the beginning, which is, I still perceive it about investing time.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's a terrible suggestion. You're busy all day long. No, if you just make sure, that you are open as much as you can in your capacity. Also, don't beat yourself if you can't be sometimes. Trust that your heart knows, and sometimes, it's a divine impulse to not be open to something. You can be protecting yourself, you can just feel like not talking, or not believing somebody telling you something, because you just have an instinct. Don't blame yourself because of that, because that's a divine impulse. Now, if you think you have the control of being open about something that you normally are not open, then do it. But you can only take care of yourself. And if you do it, it's very possible that the other person will react from the same place. Yeah. Maybe already because it's there, or maybe it turns into openness.
I've noticed.
You understand? So all you need to do is to make sure that you take care of yourself and leave the others alone. Because otherwise, that's not love.
I understand.
Love is to trust the process of each other's being different than yours, and you just trust that. And you trust the person has the goodness within, and the person won't handle when they are acting wrong for too long, and they will find their own course out of closeness or whatever. Yeah. So that's the trust, that's love. But when you start being a surgeon, it's very easy to judge, and there's so many layers on everything, so you can always see what you want to see.
So the question is, the divine impulse to be closed sometimes.
Yes.
And then the overriding of that to be open. Or
yes.
Deciding to be open.
No, but if you decide to be open, it's not your decision. It's the divine.
My decision.
No.
Yeah.
And this is what happens with free will and destiny that many times we don't understand. We don't understand that they're the same thing. We think in our mind that is divided in two, that destiny is the opposite of free will, because it makes like a lens that divides things in two. So you're either acting by destiny, or you're acting by free will. And that's not complete seeing. To see complete, you can see that there are two postures of the ego, but they are happening simultaneously. So whatever you decide to do is your destiny to decide to do.
What two postures of the ego?
Either is free will or destiny. You understand? When we command our actions to the divine, or we decide ourselves to take control of them. Don't worry. Left me.
No, it's really important because it's
It's nowhere in the radio.
It's the division. It's the division, or the idea that there is a destiny to tune into, or a will of God, or
Well, that
creates a lot of
you will
conflict.
understand that.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the fact that you can open up to trust and to make sure you're open and you're at the best of your possibilities. You're quiet, loving, yes, respectful, and kind to others. If you make sure that that's the case, then the rest needs to flow. But this idea of committing with someone who only is committed to openness, to me, it gives me allergy just the thought of it. I just feel like putting 2 spoons of sugar in the coffee and say that I just put 1. In freedom, you're not committing to anything, you know? You're just committed to truth, to the reality that you are. The rest is mental equations on the clouds, you know? They're just maps on the air. They move as the wind moves the clouds. Every time you're performing a plan or a project, you're dealing with the wind of the eternity, trying to hold to the vision of the goal. And it's so even that is difficult to reach. So relationships and commands and understandings are just illusions of the mind. You will never understand. Here's a hope. And that's beautiful, that you never understand. It keeps the freshness alive. If you would understand, it would be so boring. It keeps the freshness alive. The moment you understand your relationship, you're bored. If you're committed to just being open, you will look for somehow being close, because one pulls the other. If you put weight on one, the other one goes up.
So does that mean you can't commit to anything?
No, you can just
No, I mean, what do you...
to yourself. Commit to yourself. Commit to truth.
What does that mean?
Means not to be yourself. Not to not be yourself. That's the commitment you can do. But to others or to attitudes in the world, you can't. The only commitment possible is the commitment to yourself, which is pure consciousness, which is nameless. You see, that's the only commitment you can have. And it's not a commitment that you have like, oh, I'm going to have it there on the wall, in that mirror. No, you're going to grow into understanding that you are that. Now, you see, and even if you have flashes of it, this has to become your actual sense of I. Then you find the authentic I. And if you find the authentic I, you're not the one that you think you are or other things you are. And then you just go, you don't betray yourself. How would you betray yourself? When you start blaming yourself about what happened, or you could have done this, you could have done that, or you could have not done it, or you could have, you know, when when you stop blaming yourself for what's happening around you. That's when you betray yourself. You have the right to be wrong, and you have the right to make mistakes. And it's just an idealism that you don't have the right. That you should grow enough so you stop making mistakes. We are children forever. Childhood doesn't end when your body grows. So if you make the mistake, humbly learn a lesson. Maybe you learn it. But if you don't learn it, you have the right to take your time to learn it. Maybe 10, 15 or 200 lives. Or 2,000. Down the lane, the road is going to purification permanently. No matter what you do, you can't stop that motion. Purification will always win. No matter what you do and what you're doing. So you find peace and you become truthful to yourself. And that's what you commit to. You commit to be loving and compassionate to yourself. And that means who you are and the memories of you acting in the world. You're in love, you're loving with the memories of you. You have compassion for you. And that's the direction to go. You see, then you can commit to that. And then you have the right to be as you are. You have the right to make mistakes. You have the right to be afraid. You have the right of everything. And meanwhile, you're aware of the absolute light that you are. And once upon a time, you thought it was impossible to see them both. But when you're clear, you see them both. And your compassion only grows when you have it for yourself. And when you have acceptance for yourself. And most of us fail in that. We want to open our hearts to others, but we are closed to ourselves. So what a joke. You're very open to someone else and tried your best to accept them and understand them. But internally, you're having a war with you. So that's not being open. Being open means that you're open to you. And to every direction you take. And you have compassion for you. And the day you have that, you will have compassion for everyone else. Because you will understand that you are in the hands of forces that are beyond your control. And when you have that understanding, then you understand that for everyone else. And then you naturally stop judging. Naturally. It just finishes. And not only do you stop judging who is around you or what's happening, you stop judging your past and the people you are in conflict with your past. Because you were judging them from your arrogance, thinking that you could have done it better. Yeah? And the day you come home, you realize that you couldn't have done it better, probably. You could have done it differently, but not better. And that's when you meet everyone. Then you come in peace with your family and your parents. And then you start healing. Because everyone else, when you're not healing, you understand? In a way, your first relations were your parents. And if your relationship with your parents is not healed, every time you meet a man, you meet your father. Every time you meet a woman, you meet your mother, in a way. And if that is not clean and healthy, that relationship will not be clean and healthy, too. So you need to go home and clean your house, and be in peace with your first relations. Your first relations. Even if they're not here, you can go back to that and heal, and understand. And see that you couldn't have done it better. And that they were doing it to the most of their possibilities. And once you got to that place, your heart opens. And then you're talking of openness. Then you start, because you're open yourself, then your heart opens towards the world, because now you see equals. You see, you stop seeing the world divided by baddies and goodies, or people who are like you and people who are not like you. You see everybody equally, and you see that you could be perfectly them, and you actually are. There is no advantage or disadvantage. It's because we are all in the same, under the influences of the same forces. The mystery is surrounding us, and we're trying to save ourselves from the mystery by thinking that we know reality. But truly speaking, it's a huge mystery. Even these walls standing there, these are mystery. You know, in a second they can go down if the earth trembles. So what happens is that we take for granted, you see, but really it's a mystery. So when you come to that place in you, you open to yourself. And you stop judging yourself. You have the right to be. And when you have the right to be, you don't want to be something else. It's natural, isn't it? When you don't have the right to be, you want to be something else, so you have the right to be. What you're winning, what you're trying to find is your right to exist. And then you're trying to achieve what you think makes you deserve that right to exist. But now you came to satsang, and you're hearing this, and this is like this is a thought, like a how do you call the fish? Salmon, or yes, salmon, yeah. Yes. It's going against the current. The thought. Because the other thoughts are, no, I can't. I don't have the right to exist as I am. All the water. And the salmon goes up. Yes? You have the right to exist as you are. You have the right to exist as you are. And it's only one thought against millions. So I can't do the whole work alone. You have to generate that understanding. And if you don't generate that understanding, it will never take place. And you will always have something else to achieve, so you deserve to be. Is that clear? The natural state is a state of transcendence. Thank you. The natural state is a state of transcendence. Isn't it? Mm. In terms of the permanent, you see, we have to get used to understand that we need to, first of all, it's like if you're in a dark room and you need to go in and find out a table, you see, and you just go with your hands and until you reach some different things, and this is a chair, and this is another chair, and this is a table, and then you find the table, yeah. And then you stay there, and you just don't touch the table for a while. And then you don't remember if your table is still there. So you touch it, because it's not with the senses, you see? The way you realize the permanent. It's not with the senses, it's not with the eyes, and it's not with it. So even the touch is an example, the touching of the table. But really what I'm trying to say is that there's darkness, and you can't check with your senses that the permanent is permanent. The only way you realize the permanent is because beyond your senses, you learn, yes? To check if you're still here. Because although the table doesn't move and the light is still off and there is nobody coming in or out, because you don't touch the table, you can grow the doubt that if the table is still there. Because you get distracted in the darkness and you trust your eyes. And if the table is there and it was there before, immediately you understand that it's been there. And if it happens again and again and again, through that darkness, you touch the ground of the absolute. You touch the ground of the permanent absolute. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Very good. So there will be a moment that you don't even need to touch the table to know that it's there. You understand? Because you have no doubt. You've done so many times that you know it's here. And it's not the knowledge, it's just a connection with the table. You're the table. You become the table. So you have that moment in which you don't need to check anymore. Because there is no question about it, because now you're looking from it. And every object you perceive through the senses now is touching the table. Or is touching consciousness. Then you understand that everything you're conscious of is consciousness. So you find the table by the objects you look around. Now everything reminds you of you. Everything is touching your heart. Everything is the absolute. Because you can see it from the absolute, and it's the absolute itself seeing the absolute. So then it becomes oneness. You understand? What it was always oneness, the power of discrimination dissolves, and you don't see any longer separate things. It's all consciousness. And then you allowed yourself to abandon the world, because the world was an imposition of consciousness. So it's not that you allow yourself, it abandons you really. Yeah? Very good. No more questions? Is that clear?
There's just some still question or doubt about it's something to do with the thoughts of myself. So thoughts of the self are also they are also the self. They're also everything. So my mind can't my mind can't trick me with thoughts of the self.
Exactly. Good. Great.
And yesterday, when I was in the kitchen, and I could hear satsang, and you said something about the betrayal, the thing about Judas and the betrayal. And to me, then what resonated was this thing of making the subject into an object. And then in a flash, it seemed that I was just pretending not to know who I am. Sort of wanted to run in here and say sorry to you. Sorry. Sorry, I've just been pretending.
Yes.
Yeah. Then afterwards that seemed quite strange, but it's still with me, that sense of pretending. This game or something.
Yes, many times in satsangs I said the word, but I don't remember which one, but I said it.
Confess.
No. Confess, maybe. Was it confess? Admit. That's what I used to say. Admit. If you admit, it's enough. But you have to do it fully. And then you... and then yes.
Because is in the space in time between when I last saw you and this retreat, quite a few times a question came up that was to ask you, should I declare that I'm found, or should I declare that I'm lost?
None of them.
But yeah, and then some, yeah.
None of them. You know, treat I'm found and I'm lost as equal.
Yeah, that's how they felt in the sense of the truth of both of them.
In your heart there is a warmth that cannot be translated. Stay close to that warmth. And that is without words, without I, without found, without lost. It's just the light that has always been here. Be that light and that warmth. And treat every thought of I equally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fire. There's a song saying, ain't the fire inside? Let's go round, sit around it. when you find the fire inside. Yes, you don't need to sit around the fire outside. And this is be devoid of I or thoughts.